Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. And as we gear up for the new Rolling Stones release, Hackney Diamonds, that's going to be coming out, I'm going to continue my series where I rank the Rolling Stones studio albums according to my personal favorites. Today, it's going to be episode 2 of Ranking the Stones albums. Today is going to be the 70s, the Rolling Stones 70s releases. They released 6 studio albums, and we're going to be going through them, ranking them. I'm going to show you some special editions. And then I'm going to show you some other special releases from the Stones in the 70s that I think you're going to find pretty cool. Regarding the new album Hackney Diamonds, if you subscribe and check out the website hackneydiamonds.com, today was interesting. They put like a timer on there. And right now it's at 7 days and like 18 hours, and it's got minutes and seconds. And then based on their time frame, it looks like something's going to happen on September 6th. What it's going to be, I don't know. Maybe they're going to release the new single, which I believe is going to be called Angry. Maybe they're going to perform somewhere in Hackney at that Mare Street. Who knows what's going to be, but we'll stay tuned. Pretty exciting. Also, the new Stones logo for Hackney Diamonds is like this red broken glass kind of Stones logo. It popped up in cities all over the world. It was in London, New York City, Berlin, Spain. I mean, you name it. And there's pictures on the internet of a gigantic red broken glass Stones tongue for Hackney Diamonds popping up all over. So whoever the record label is, Universal, I'm taking a guess, they're doing a good job of getting some buzz going. And let's hope it translates to success for the Stones album. All right, without further ado, let's do episode 2. Let's rank the 6 Rolling Stones studio releases that came out in the 1970s. Now, I love every one of these albums. I know every note on every one of these albums, and I've heard every one of these a bazillion times. Got them all when they first came out. So something's got to be number 6, something's got to be number 1. For me, it's actually a very easy ranking because I'm going to rank them the amount that I played them. So at number 6 is going to be this album, Black and Blue. Love the cover. All of these, by the way, these are like first pressings because I got these albums literally when they came out. I love the cover, and there was the Indicate fold, and then I loved the inner sleeve because it actually showed who's playing on what, because of course Black and Blue, even though Ronnie Wood is on the cover, because Ronnie toured with the Stones in 75, the first time I saw them, and then 76 they took that tour to Europe, and they were playing a good chunk of Black and Blue, which was exciting. I loved getting the bootlegs. But he's actually not on this album very often on guitar. Most of the time he's just like background vocals. They had Harvey Mandel and Wayne Perkins doing the lead guitar work, and they did a fantastic job. They filled in Mick Taylor's shoes, great lyrical guitar leads, memorable, not really Ronnie's wheelhouse. So the thing is, when this album came out, it was very much a disappointment. The critics didn't like it that much. It was just so different, and really, when it came out and I got it, I was really disappointed as well, to be honest with you. It was a strange time. Presence from Led Zeppelin came out. I was also really disappointed with that. It was just ahead of its time, to be honest with you, even though it's very much of its time. But the album has great legs. It's really produced really well by Mick and Keith, the Glimmer Twins. It sounds great. Sounds great on vinyl. Sounds even better on the digitally remastered CDs. It was just so different. But interestingly enough, this was a Stones album that every single song had gotten played live, which you can't say about too many Stones albums. I think maybe the first one was Some Girls, and this may have been the second one. Eventually they played everything on Sticky Fingers. That's about it out of all of these. They don't play a lot of their songs live, but this album, every song cut it live. Hot Stuff, great funky opener. Hand of Fate, an amazing, I love that it's like a Mick Taylor song. You got your Keith on rhythm, you got Wayne Perkins doing beautiful lead guitar work on her. It's great. Cherry O Baby, that's one of the few ones that's got Ronnie on guitar. really strange cover of an Eric Donaldson song that probably very few people knew. I didn't know it. It's a really different kind of song. Then you go into Memory Motel, which in my opinion is one of the Stones' greatest songs ever. One of the few times they have Keith and Mick duetting. I never understood why that's not a perennial live song, because when you see it live, it's a highlight of the show, but then they just never play it live. I really don't know why. Mick plays beautiful concert piano on there, and Billy Preston on string synthesizer. It's a masterpiece. Side 2, well, Hey Negrita, Ronnie Wood's all over that one. I think he had a hand in writing it. He does play guitar on that. Melody is a great funky duet between Mick and Billy Preston. Fool to Cry is the original single on the album. It's a great ballad. It just didn't compare in my mind at that time to Angie, which was the first single of Goats That Soup 3 years earlier, which was a ballad. So it was a little bit of a disappointment. And then Crazy Mama is the last song. Mick is playing some good rhythm on that. I remember a review in like Circus or Cream, and they said they kind of trashed this album, and they said even the last song, Crazy Mama, doesn't compare with the last song on Metamorphosis, which was like an outtake album. The song was I'm Going Down. It's kind of true, but Crazy Mama works now. It's an album that we had to catch up on. I needed to catch up on, and I love Black and Blue, but something's got to go at number 6, and that's it. At number 5 for me, well, that's going to be It's Only Rock and Roll. It's an album I love. Bought it the day it came out. It's one of my favorite album covers from the Stones. I love it. It's the first pressing. Got it when it came out. And I just think it's a great, great album. Again, it didn't get great reviews. The biggest problem with this album is it didn't have a great single. And now It's Only Rock and Roll, the title track, was the single, and it is a classic. Stones play it live. You hear it on the radio once in a while. But the reality is, back in 1974, it was a strange choice of a single. It was not, for the Rolling Stones in the 70s, a really big hit for the band. I mean, it was a hit. The album itself only hit number 1 in the U.S. for 1 week, and that was very telling, because all their albums would hit number 1. And that was a very short stand. The hit single, It's Only Rock and Roll, was not such a big hit. And when you think about the singles that would lead off on these other albums, yeah, it was like a disappointment. It's kind of a strange track. You know the history of it. It was really recorded as a jam in Ronnie Wood's house. Kenny Jones played the drums, and then they did a lot of overdubs. And it kind of sounds like it. It's just not a clean song. But it's certainly the sentiment, and live, It's Only Rock and Roll, but I Like It is great. But it's kind of telling. What was the second single in the United States from this album? Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which was a cover. It's a great cover, but when the Stones are doing a cover and it's released as a single, you kind of like, there was nothing else there? Nah, look at the tracks on this album. There are no other singles really to be released from this album. So I think that kind of hurt the album commercially. But with that said, I think it's a great record. I love the opener, If You Can't Rock Me. It segues into Ain't Too Proud to Beg, into It's Only Rock and Roll. Till the Next Goodbye is a gorgeous ballad. Love it. I've seen when the Stones rehearse, you can see it every once in a while written as if they were rehearsing it, but I've never heard a live version of it, even in rehearsal. Time Waits for No One. Well, if you know me, that's in my top 3 of favorite Rolling Stones tracks. Mick Taylor at his best. It's just an incredible, incredible song. And I love Luxury, side 2. It's kind of like a pseudo-reggae-ish track, but it works really well. Dance Little Sister is a great rocker. Although I got to say, the bootleg version of Dance Little Sister has 2 bridges, not 1. There's only 1 bridge on the album, and it works better with 2 bridges. Don't know why they didn't do that. If You Really Want to Be My Friend is a great gospel kind of a ballad that I love. Short and Curly's, well, they got you by the balls. I mean, it's just a fun track. And Fingerprint File is just a great, funky number. It was a highlight when I saw the band live on their 75 tour. It's on live version on Love You Live. Love it. But something's got to be number 5. So there it is. It's Only Rock and Roll. What would be number 4? This is a tough one. May surprise a lot of viewers, but I'm going to go with Some Girls. Now, again, these are my choices. Some Girls, here's the original 12-inch single on red vinyl. I remember hearing Miss You on the radio before it was released, and I was like, what the heck is that? It was such a different kind of song, and I told my best friend Mike, it's not going to be a hit. Boy, was I wrong, right? It's the last Stones #1 in the United States, actually. Um, and Miss You is a real grow to me. It's a phenomenal song. The Stones play it live to this day. And please don't tell me it's a disco song, because it ain't a disco song. It's an R&B song. And there's only one part of it where it has a disco 4 on the floor beat from Charlie Watts. Other than that, it is straight R&B. You want to hear a disco rock song? Listen to like Rod Stewart's "Do You Think I'm Sexy" with the swirling keyboards. And the 4 on the floor. That's disco. This is pure R&B. Here's the first pressing, which I got the day it came out, of Some Girls, and then the band cover, the second pressing, which is this one. Some Girls is a perfect album. Song by song, it doesn't get much better than this. The Stones stood up to the challenge from punk rock, and they delivered. You know, they were in their sights of the punk rockers and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all the dinosaur bands. Hard to think that Stones were only around 14 years when they put this out. But they were in their punk rocker sights, and boy, did they put them in their place. Some Girls, a monster album. I just don't play it that much anymore because I played it to death in the 70s and the 80s as well. But when I do play it, it's as powerful today as then. There's your track listing. You know, Miss You, like we talked about. When the Whip Comes Down, you got Respectable. Those are real lies. I mean, those are real like punk rock Rolling Stone songs, and they hold up great. Just My Imagination is a phenomenal cover. Some Girls, one of my favorite Stones tracks. Great bluesy track. Great lyrics. I don't care what anybody says. It's fun. Great harp work. Faraway Eyes, that great country pastiche. That's just so much fun. I think it even charted a bit on the country charts. Before They Make Me Run, to me, that's probably Keith's second best track, you know, what he sings behind Happy. I mean, it's an amazing song. Beast of Burden. You know, Ronnie Wood is just not a great lead guitar player. All the years with the Stones, you can't really think of too many great melodic leads that stick in your head. But that is a perfect, this Beast of Burden is a perfect description of that guitar weaving art that the Stones like to talk about between Ronnie Wood and Keith. Doesn't get any better than Beast of Burden. It's a perfect song. And Shattered, great lyrics. New York, I'm a New Yorker. It's just a classic. Some Girls is an amazing, amazing album that sounds as good today as it did then. But like I said, something's got to come in at number 4, and this is it. Because for me, at number 3, and I already did a 20-minute video just on this album, my third favorite Stones album of all time is Goat's Head Soup. It's the first album by the Stones I ever bought the day it came out. I think it's the most underrated album in the Stones canon. I think it's equally underrated even by the Stones. So much of this album they've never played. Here's the, you got like 3 of these. I got so many versions of Goat's Head Soup. But this was the one hanging on my bedroom wall. I'm not going to go into it too much because I already did a 20-minute video on why Goat's Head Soup is so great and underrated. But it just is. To me, all the people who think Exile is the greatest album of all time or way up there, to me, Goat's Head Soup is very much like Exile, even though it wasn't recorded like Exile. It was recorded in Jamaica. But Dancing with Mr. D, 100 years ago, Coming Down Again, Heartbreaker, Angie, you know, it's fantastic. Silver Train's a rocker. Hide Your Love, Winter, Can You Hear the Music, Star Star. I mean, this album's got 3 of the greatest ballads of all time, in my opinion. 2 of the greatest Stones ballads and 2 of the greatest ballads of all time, Angie and Winter. It doesn't get any better than that. And Keith's ballad, Coming Down Again, is incredible. It's just a phenomenal album. And this is my third favorite Stones album of all time, which leaves at number 2. That's going to be Exile on Main Street. Here's the first pressing of that. It used to open up inside. And I do have all the postcards. And this is what it looked like. And Exile on Main Street is just unique in the Stones' discography. It was in the vinyl age, their only double album. Mick notoriously thinks it's overrated. It's not, but I know where he's coming from because there's just so many things on this album that are uncommercial. And if you just pick them out as individual songs, you'd be like, eh. But the thing about this album that's so incredible is the journey it takes you on. And I actually think Goat's Head Soup takes you on a great journey as well. Exile on Main Street, it's meant to be played from beginning to end, in my opinion. Rocks Off, Rip This Joint, Hip Shake, Casino Boogie, Tumbling Dice. Side 2, the acoustic side, Sweet Virginia, Torn and Frayed, Black Angel, Sweet Black Angel, and Loving Cup is incredible. That's a perfect side. I mean, even side 1, they're all perfect, but, you know, individual song title, you know, some of the songs, you know, like side 3, Happy, Turd on the Run, Ventilator Blues, Just Want to See His Face and Let It Loose is incredible. But if you aren't a Stones fan and you just put on, you know, Turd on the Run, you'd be like, eh. But it flows. It's meant to take you on a journey. And side 4 is amazing. All Down the Line, Stop Breaking Down, Shine a Light, and Soul Survivor. Exile on Main Street. A lot of people say it's the best Stones album, or maybe the best album of all time. It's not the best Stones album, because my number one choice by the Stones in the 70s, and I've done videos on this, is also my number one favorite album of all time, and that's Sticky Fingers. That's a perfect album. Kind of like an Exile, it takes you on a journey as well, but it's tighter because it's only a single album. Here's one vinyl version. Here's the original Spanish version because it was banned. You couldn't put Sister Morphine on, so they replaced it with Let It Rock. And that's this Spanish version. Lots of different versions. I think I have 8 versions of Sticky Fingers right now. This was one of the deluxe reissues. There's Brown Sugar Sway, Wild Horses, Can You Hear Me Knockin', You Gotta Move, Bitch, I Got the Blues, Sister Morphine, Dead Flowers, and Moonlight Mile. I've talked about this album in my favorite album of all time, my most played album of all time. You can check out those videos for a real deep dive. Let's talk about some bonus tracks. The Stones, I just feel like their deluxe reissues are just such a disappointment compared to what a lot of other bands are doing. I mean, you know, it's cool. It's got the Brown Sugar with Eric Clapton. Well, if you're a Stones fan, you've had that for years on bootleg. Can't You Hear Me Knock, an alternate version, Bitch, extended version, Dead Flowers, an alternate version. They're okay. But then you get Live at the Roundhouse, which is from 1971, which is extraordinary, but they only tap into it. They don't put all the songs on there. You know, to me, it was like a tease. Now, of course, on bootleg, we can get it, but if you're going to deep dive and put this stuff out, why didn't they put the whole show out? And then if you get the super mega deluxe version, well, they finally released this classic bootleg in great sound, Get Your Leads Lungs Out, but you'd have to get that mega box to get it. I have it anyway. Here it is. And this is another extraordinary performance. I mean, Stones really amazing. Leeds University, 1971. So that's the deluxe edition of Sticky Fingers. The deluxe edition of Exile was like this one and came with a second disc of outtakes. It was interesting. I actually wound up playing it a lot. I think a lot of it's pretty good. But the problem is, and I'd rather just release the bootleg stuff. I have tons of this bootleg stuff. And what they do is Mick goes back and he redoes the vocals. Or he records vocals because like some of it, like Pass the Wine or Aladdin saying they didn't have vocals or lyrics. So he adds it. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. But at the same time, it's like, it doesn't sound like 1972. I mean, you know, the single was Plundering My Soul. It was a really good song. I really liked it a lot. But it really didn't sound like 1972, in my opinion. But, you know, that was what was on the deluxe edition. I even got a special, its own CD of just the bonus tracks, you know. Another one on here was Following the River, which was a really good song. But it didn't sound anything like 1972. So it's the Stones Deluxe editions to me are frustrating. Get Your Eyes Out. Where's that mega box up there? Similar kind of situation. I've had those stuff on bootlegs for years, like, you know, Crisscross, and things like that. And I prefer the bootleg versions. Anyway, there's the top 6. So what were they? At number 6, Black and Blue. Number 5, It's Only Rock and Roll. Number 4, The Perfect Album, Some Girls. Number 3, Goat's Soup. Number 2, Exile on Main Street. And number 1, no doubt, Sticky Fingers. My favorite album of all time by anybody. I think the greatest album of all time. Now, in the 70s, the Stones released some really interesting things. So let me get up there and show you some other stuff that you may find interesting. Now, ABKCO, Alan Klein's label, in 1975, when I went to see the Stones live, they released Metamorphosis. The Stones weren't happy with it. Bill Wyman was putting together a thing called the Black Box, which was going to be 3 records in a box. And Klein said, "Nah, we're just going to put this out as a single album." I love Metamorphosis. I loved it in '75. It's still one of my go-to albums. I play it all the time. Is it really a Stones album? Well, I think it is. But it's more like demos and backing tracks that other performers were going to cover these songs. But it's got a cool version of Out of Time. Don't Lie to Me is a great, Chuck Berry kind of thing. I love it. Heart of Stone's a different version, but each and every day of the year, I'd much rather be with the boys, walking through the sleepy city, try a little harder. I don't know why, on the first cover it says Jagger, Richards, and Taylor. It's obviously a Stevie Wonder song, and on a latter version, it's got the correct titling. Amazing version of that. If You Let Me. Jiving Sister Fanny's such a great rocker. Downtown Susie, cool Bill Wyman track. Family, like a Beggar's Banquet. Outtake, acoustic. Memo from Turner, a really great version of the solo song from Jagger's film performance. And it ends with I'm Going Down, which I remember that critic saying is better than Crazy Mama, and it is. And this was a UK version. It had 2 extra songs on there, which was Some Things Just Stick in My Mind and We're Wasting Time, which were just okay. This is a great album if you're a Stones fan. It's such a fun listen, and I got it in '75, and I still listen to it. That's how good I love it. What else is interesting? Let's show these. Abco, speaking of Alan Klein, a lot of people don't want to remember, or they didn't realize, but Hot Rocks in '72 and later in '72, more Hot Rocks. These are pretty much the 2 greatest compilations ever, done by the Stones, and they're Alan Klein releases. The Stones did not do these. And they're amazing. Hot Rocks is probably the best entry point for the Stones. It's the Stones from '64 to '71, so you don't get any of this other stuff. But the album came out in '72, and then it was so successful, and it's probably the Stones' largest selling record of all time to this day. And More Hot Rocks was the sequel, and it was equally great. But you got to get these on CD. They're better on CD. More Hot Rocks has a load of bonus tracks, and it's one of the few times you see that on a Stones album. So this is the version you want to get on CD. And what I have is the SACD versions, which are amazing. The live album that came out in the '70s from the Stones really was Love You Live. Came out in '77. I love the artwork. This is the first pressing, and I loved it especially because I saw the tour in '75. But this was mostly recorded in '76 on the European tour. And side 3, of course, was the Elmo Combo. I'd say Love You Live is the most fun live album the Stones ever did, and it is. I still play it to this day, and I think it's great. It's the only time Ronnie Wood really played some kick-ass lead guitar with the Stones. But whenever it was, last year, I guess, or was it this year? I think it was last year, they finally released Elmo Combo, and it's one of the few times the Stones have done an archive release that I wasn't disappointed at all. I love it. This can battle out with Love You Live for the most fun live Rolling Stones release. Look at the set list. I did a whole album review of this, so if you go to album reviews, you'll see a whole thing on Elmo Combo. But the set list was to die for if you're a Stones fan. A lot of Black and Blue, Dance Little Sister, a lot of deep cuts, and the band is killing it. They sound great. Ronnie Wood playing some great lead. Here's another strange release. Jammin' with Edward. You're like, what the hell is this? Well, Jammin' with Edward came out on Rolling Stones Records. And I remember when it came out in 1972, they took out like full-page ads in the Rolling Stone magazine. I think they were selling the album for like $3.98 because it's not a Rolling Stones album. You got Nicky Hopkins, Ry Cooder, Mick Jagger, Bill Wyman, and Charlie Watts. It's basically a jam without Keith, and you got Ry Cooder in there. And really, Nicky Hopkins is the guy who is all over this. There's a lot of piano. It's just a raw jam. It's really not very good. But as a completist, and if you love the Stones, you got to have it. But yeah, I love the cover. It's kind of cool. Jammin' with Edward. Definitely not musically essential, but fun to have if you're a Stones fan. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? Yeah, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff over here. You want to get a great live release from the 70s? Well, on bootleg, it was the Brussels Affair, the famous Brussels concert from 73, the Goat's Head Soup Tour. It's extraordinary. Us bootleggers who love the Stones and bootleg loved it. The Stones finally put it out on the deluxe of Goat's Head Soup, and this is what it looks like. But it's a different recording. It's the same tour, but it's not the same recordings. Believe it or not, I still go to the bootleg more than the official Stones release of A Brussels Affair. But either way, you know, you get some live Goats, Dancing with Mr. D, Star, Heartbreaker. Angie is on this one. So it's just killer stuff. It's just great. Certainly one of the prime Stones live releases. Speaking of the best Stones live albums, actually Get Your Eyes Out. Now that would officially be a 1970s album also, because it came out in 1970. But of course it's from the 69 tour, you know, officially recorded at Madison Square Garden. We don't know 100% if that's true at this point, but it doesn't really matter. It is really a 60s recording, but this is, in my opinion, Stones' best live album, for sure. And then other than that, a couple of interesting compilations. You know, in 75 when they toured, they had Metamorphosis and this thing, Made in the Shade. Really kind of unessential, just 10 songs, you know, but 10 great songs. So, you know, it's a great listen. But, you know, in the CD age, you know, it's a short album. This was an interesting one. Came out in 1979. This was a UK import, Anthology 71 to 77. Time Waits for No One. And kind of like Suckin' in the 70s in the sense that it's got a cool set list. Not exactly what you would expect, but there are edits. Time Waits for No One is not the full length, which is kind of disappointing. But that's a fun compilation. And another fun compilation was this UK thing called Rolled Gold, the very best of the Rolling Stones, and nice packaging, kind of like Hot Rocks on steroids, in a sense. That's a famous one. They put out a Rolled Gold too. So I think that covers the Rolling Stones in the 70s. Let me know what you think. What's your ranking for those 6 studio albums? Do you like my choices or not? But just remember, I love every note of every one of these albums. The Stones in their prime. Most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching. We'll keep tabs on Hackney Diamonds and the upcoming Stones release. And I guess I'll try to do a ranking of the Stones in the 60s and maybe the Stones in the post-80s. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.